Angela wandered around the room, picking things up and replacing them, reviewing each item's place. But she could not keep her mind on pleasing the likes of Guy. Adjusting this or that began to distract her. The distance of calibration screen from computer, possible noise on the connection too, worried her. She moved the unit. She cut small squares of felt to place under the casters. Then she moved something else. She adjusted this or that a little more, and soon was lost in construction intricacies. Guy's subsided to an unspecified threat to the project, which was pointless to measure and therefore needed forgetting, too exhausting. The field generator was almost ready to test. As of today, she had power. She could calibrate. She crossed the whiteboard and sketched an addition to some vectors there, sharpening the expectation value between the two physical states involved. She made the gesture, feeding the symbols into the system, and immediately sensed its tuning had changed. This was not so much in any appearance. The calibration screen was still uninitialized, and just shed a uniform glow as its hum. She replaced her marker pen. She trailed a finger across the cable separating her from the bicycle, then ducked under it, and on an impulse mounted it. This really was ridiculous. Most of what she had based this upon was her own extension of Turing's groundbreaking attack on energy, which had led to so much from fusion power to genetic manipulation. Nobody here had any idea how outrageous and self-indulgent her application of Turing's later postulations actually were. Few people anywhere, really. She had gone along because she did not know how to refuse, but also out of a selfish desire to attempt all the things she had not dared to mention at university. They would have laughed, especially for Daev. She had not noticed she was peddling and counting. Pleasant watching the primes go by. Soon someone would come in. They interrupted more frequently now, because her project was great to look at, if they didn't know, impressively outrageous if they did, or both. Angela could not tell which was the true right now. All she cared about was the primes. She pushed a greasy lock out of one eye. She pedalled. The primes grew. She counted Fermat liars out of each she chose and discarded numbers that flowed to her from a complicated shape rotating in her mind's eye. This involved actual calculation, which was like the time in the morning following Freddie as he set the pace on a walk, painful until you got into the rhythm. Soon, false prime counting became automatic. She began to notice the room again. Her peddling was moving the calibration bars toward the mean she had worked out, an approximation of preconditions for a read-on book-like information topologies at a distance, given data feed into it by previous ring activity on books from these locations. A quivering line darting back and forth, but trending across the wide expanse into zone and focus. This only began as a statistical derivation. It graduated pretty quickly into actual views of conditions at the chosen location. A sensing of book-like objects in the correct energy manifold. A knowledge at a distance reading, so to speak, partly cheating with information gathered outside the already was, flowing back to her equipment from the end of time, and weeded further by a process analogous to her idle Fermat prime checking, a low-energy test that just ran one quick rule on it. None of what she was up to was going to get her a single book location this fine morning. It was too early for the system to have any realistic sense of what a book was. It had to be taught. That took Bayesian play, which had not yet begun. Still the lines were pretty, kind of pink, holding a note like a choir, with the green edging that sharpened and added bass pulses as she followed the rhythms of the prime crunching in her head, sometimes a little faster and other times dragging on to a ridiculous extent, according to what she whimsically called the number's needs. The numbers were not needy, just many-featured. They were individual. The day faded. Grey all of a sudden in a typical Cavendish shift. Crackling which Angela fancied was the wind stirring. Dust 3 floors below in the street rose and fell, harmonically rising through the edge conditions she knew universal in weather systems, as they were in patterns of the manifolds of space. Abruptly, everything but the calibration lines went black. The bicycle juddered. It was not a normal bike. It was a normal bike, mounted on a shiny frame that lifted the rear wheel. It was a solid teenager's model from someone's garage, with a new comfy seat fitted in place of spokes, palladium alloy wires. Now these glowed. Angela looked around at not just darkness, but complete absence. Empty black. It had been balmy, and now nothing. Neither hot nor cold, nor even the feeling of air on her face, or hair, which on previous rides had risen off the altered spokes. The cracking had now reached whee and held steady. Something grey appeared in the middle distance. She had decided she had better not stop pedalling. Should she keep calculating? Was that having some sort of effect on the calibration? The thought broke her concentration, and just as suddenly as the lights had vanished, day resumed. Her pumping legs were sore. Her pedalling faded off. Although fatigue was not the reason, the bike, which had been uttering a light clack as the chain stuck on the drive cog, and ticking as bicycles do from its rear wheel, previously unnoticed in the humming and singing and drumming from the generator array, now filled the silence. For a moment, a whole new cacophony rose up before her. Birds. Hundreds, no thousands. Parrots, green and scarlet, chattering at one another, and wings awhir, as squads burst into the air and swooped away from lemon-flowered eucalyptus all around them. Trees. No time had passed, for the sun was in the same position. No, not the same, but less than 8 degrees difference in it. It was as if the library had departed, leaving only this landscape. And yet not all the library, for she had the bicycle. She had the cable streaming from it, trailing behind as though she had been towing the place, and they had snapped. There was herself, too. Library monkey. She and the bike had headed on to here. Red-soiled, low-scrubbed, grassy and sandy, and a bit rocky here. Angela realised that soon the heat would become a factor. Her skin, pale as a turnip, had in recent times with Freddie taken a little sun in places vaguely freckling. No quantity of walks would have prepared her for this. She was prickling with perspiration already. She was dry-mouthed. Surely a suggestion. She had arrived for work that morning in a powder blue 40s-style dress, one of 5 new ones, bearing arms and knees, square neck exposing Angela's spectral cleavage, in a cheerful and perhaps even attractive way, she had thought. It was how she had begun to dress, for the first time having a little fun, and getting noticed. Freddie had begun to punch her arm and call her mate. Was this progress? In any case, her previously sensible suits would have served her better in this place, which she would never have believed if not for this heat. This heat could kill. There was no sign of other human life. There was no water, and her bicycle did not even have tyres.